Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CAS's business support podcast, your go-to resource for practical business advice and expert insights.
Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CAS's business support podcast. And today we're going to tackle a subject that is becoming more non-negotiable in business, sustainability and ESG. I'm delighted to say that today I'm joined by Hannah Montgomery.
Hello, everybody.
And she'll do her own introduction in a second. And David Whitehouse.
Hello.
And he'll do his own introduction in a second. So, sustainability and ESG, massive topic, close to these two guys' hearts. Mm-hmm. And we'll ask them a little bit about what it means to them shortly. Hannah, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you do it, and then we'll do the same for Dave.
Yeah, no, thanks, Paul. Hello, I'm Hannah and I am a co-founder of a Lichfield-based not-for-profit called Grace Cares, and we're on a mission to make care sustainable. So predominantly, she says, showing off her top, we deal with pre-loved care equipment, and we also offer ESG and sustainability training to care providers nationwide and lots of other things, but related to sustainability. They're the main things.
Fabulous, thank you. And Dave?
So I'm David. I run In Life. We're a web design digital marketing agency. And we sort of jumped into sustainability ball pit about 18 months ago because we were renting a big 1,200 square foot office space, which had pool table, arcade machines, wasting lots of electricity. And then after COVID, we realised nobody was coming to it anymore. And the way the world was going, we realised it was a complete waste of space. So we looked into somewhere to buy where we could build our own unique, fully sustainable office, but combine sustainability with technology, with smart sensors and water irrigation, things like that, and create a combo of the two for sort of the office of the future.
Well, so both definitely, both thought provokers and leaders in change.
We'll try.
Some might say.
Okay, so actually, I mean, I suppose the big red herring in all of this is what does sustainability mean, and ESG to a certain extent, but sustainability mean in business terms? I think that's really important. And I think, Dave, if we ask you that first, because you've been through that change directly in your own business.
Yeah, so I realised that we need to do a change in the way the government's going and so on, and that corporations now are looking to use more sustainable businesses. So a combination of like doing what's right and actually doing what's going to be the future of business was sort of our spark for doing that. And when I start looking into it, you see a lot of businesses do things like, for every website you buy, we'll plant a tree. And then you realise, we did like the carbon literacy training, which was to Hannah, and you realise actually that's carbon offsetting and it just doesn't really work. It's kind of like, saying, I've done something bad, but I've done something good, so that's okay.
Oh, it's the trees.
Yeah.
The trees have even been planted if they're not going to reputable price.
So I just scrapped I didn't read. You've said ESG like 3 times. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like I've literally just done what I thought was best in my head. So literally we built an office, built it all sustainable materials, looked for sustainable insulation, used locally sourced wood, just completely tried to just do it completely off grid. The best way I thought necessary, combine it with technology, so creating a smart automation that's got presence sensors, so it detects where people are, lights on, turn on accordingly, turn off if they're not in the room. When the rain gets full, it waters all the plants. Literally just do what I think would be the office of the future if I was to create it without, Hannah was really useful when I had this idea, gave me a lot of advice on things to go and courses to do, and so on. But in terms of the way of doing it, it was like, well, I'm just going to do what I think is best for the planet and the way the office of the future should be, and see what happens. So that's how we sort of delved into it.
So let's just, and I think you're right, we've mentioned ESG a couple of times. So environmental, sustainability and governance is the official, and it's the government tagline really, as opposed to something that I've been clever or Hannah's been clever and come up with, because I am absolutely not that by
I thought it was what they used to put in Chinese food.
Oh, yeah.
That's MSG, isn't
it?
Yeah.
So, oh dear me. And Hannah, obviously Grace Cares very, very much around probably one of the biggest unknown waste producers. And obviously we've had some conversations prior to the podcast, and I'm astounded by what happens in care. So if you sort of talk about that journey, because I think that actually dovetails nicely what people are trying to do in business.
Yeah, well, no one really understood the waste that is within care. Everyone's going, the NHS is on its knees and social care is on its knees and we all need this. And I'm like, well, why are we throwing equipment in a skip then? So people would go back. You get your crutches, you get your Zimmer frame, then you go back to try and hand them back. But the NHS haven't got those maintenance divisions anymore. They haven't got the space anymore to keep it and clean it. And bizarrely, the NHS work in so many different silos. They don't really know what's happening over there that's good. So one NHS trust might take everything back and one might not. And they never communicate.
Yeah, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Yeah, so we work with 4 NHS trusts at the moment and they donate their care equipment to us. We also have a partnership with Staffordshire County Council. So across they've got 14 tip sites, but across 12, I should call them HWRCs, Household Waste Recycling Centres. They have pods and they'll collect the care equipment to us. Then it comes and we kind of clean it, maintain it. If it needs infection control level, we can even do that. We can do murder scene clean level on it. Believe it or not, you have to pay extra for that, but we can. And we do PAT testing if it's electric, Lola testing if it's for manual handling and what have you. So it's all good to go. And then it gets sold on at half the original price or less. And you just think that's madness. And some people don't have enough money even at that point. So that's cool. We have a hardship grant pot that's now managed by the Community Foundation, Staffordshire and Shropshire, but it's open nationwide. They're just managing the funds for us. So that's for health and social care workers nationwide. So that's health workers, paramedics, nurses, what have you, and also social care workers. So people that work, care professionals in a care home or domiciliary care, supported living, stuff like that. And we also have a funding pot for the over 70s, so anyone 70 and above. So sometimes we may have someone that comes to the unit that needs a piece of equipment and we can just tell that they, even at half price, they can't afford that electric wheelchair at 250 quid.
It is. It's the true recycling, isn't it? But I think it's horrifying to think that an entity, an organisation, a national organisation has got probably the worst disposable attitude ever, and maybe I'm wrong to say that, but that ability for one that's got from all of the, and this isn't a political podcast by any stretch, but it's got the biggest budget of, I'm going to say, people interaction, but it's got the biggest attitude towards not recycling. That's scary.
I think it's regulatory as well, and it's fear of infection and trying to understand, cross-contamination and is that then going to cause, where's the blame? It's a blame culture, isn't it? You don't want to be sued.
Yes.
Don't want to just burn it.
Yeah, it is. And I think that sort of attitude is probably hurting more than it is aiding. Obviously, you've both gone on these journeys around sustainability. Has that impacted your ability to transact business? So, David, you're very much you're not very much. You're a private business where profits are important. But have you seen those an upturn in profitability because customers are coming to you on the back of your, I'm going to call them greener credentials, as opposed to just the fact that you've got this fantastic eco lodge?
Yeah, that's a hard one to log, really, and considering what we do is tracking where business comes from digitally, it's a hard one. We've not had anybody actively say, "Oh, we've came to you because you are green," but we have had people say, "Oh, I like the way that's available," and I think it is going to become more prominent because, like, all the hosting we do is powered by 100% renewable energy.
Yeah,
and now coming into play, and Hannah knows more about this than me, that companies are being now forced to log what suppliers they're using. If you earn over a certain amount, they have to say, well, this is who we're using, and are they green?
Yeah.
So I feel like we're easing into that place, but we're already there. Whereas I feel like a lot of business, when this starts happening and it does start dropping, they're going to panic. What can we do? Buy some trees.
You're right. And we'll touch later on the podcast about some of the tools to keep this a little bit of county, some of the tools that can help you identify those supply chains and how green they are, and actually how green you are. But as I say, we'll touch on those a little bit later. And obviously, Hannah, for you, I guess it's about being able to recycle and generate that cash. And has that been well received? Because I remember when when we first met you as Grace Cares, and we took on that little bit of pro bono, I think is the phrase, bookkeeping for you, you were getting in more than you were able to sell out the other end because there's this reluctance. But are now people starting to see a recycled item is better than brand new?
I think they're beginning to trust in Grace Cares. We've been going for 2.5 years now, and I think that credibility piece is there. But in terms of money saving and bringing it back to money, how more cost effective is it for you to run the office that you're running now, possibly with more staff than you did before than previously when you had that huger unit?
Yeah, it is more cost effective for us to run this because obviously, well, it's on my own land, so that's one part of it. But then also that the electricity is being on and off accordingly, and all managed by ourselves. On the flip side of the thing, it's more expensive to buy sustainable equipment. So buying sustainable insulation costs more than buying regular insulation. But it's finding that balance in upcycling like you have as well. So overall, running the business, is more cost effective. But to get to that point is a bit more costly to begin with, I think.
Yeah, and that kind of was my next point, was about how do we bounce back the cost that the government, accountants and professional bodies are championing. We've got to become more sustainable. But the kickback that we've found with our clients has always been, but it's too expensive to make that transition.
Yeah.
And I guess your comment about, well, it's more cost effective to run once you've done it, but doing it is always a challenge. And because you are very much leading that charge and that change, you're, for want of a better phrase, being penalised because it's not cost effective, but those costs will naturally come down the more and more people buy into it is the future.
And it is more cost effective for us, but other companies, if you're buying and selling and saying, well, buy from the UK instead of buying from China and saving on the shipping, that's probably not going to be cost effective for them going forwards. That's probably going to cost them more going forward, which in turn then ups their prices.
Yeah.
So it is
it is. I think it's a vicious circle, but I think there's a generation, and again, we'll touch on it a little bit later, but there's a generational shift where we've now been asked, when potential clients come to us, what's your sustainability policy, or do you have one? Are you registered with somebody like B Corp? Have you got carbon literate citizens working for you? So I think gone are the days of what's your cost. I think it's now more about those holistic, what we would historically have considered peripheral questions are now starting to come to the fore.
And I think with bigger companies, and that's because they're being forced to do it at that point, but it is going to...
It's filtering down,
isn't it?
I would imagine by 2030, even the sole trader doing £50,000 a year is going to have some form of sustainability requirements.
Well, we were the first major economy at the United Nations to go, we're going to be net zero by 2050. And we were the first ones. So people don't understand that at that standpoint, we've already agreed to that.
Yeah. Well, didn't we initially say something like 2030? And then they went back and went, actually, let's put it back a bit.
But it's going to happen. It's a bit like, and if you're not sure, go and check out our previous podcasts on Making Tax Digital. People think it's not going to happen, but these things are going to come. And the earlier you embrace them, the more you're already prepared for them when they become mandatory, because there's no changes to make.
But terminology changes with it and people don't completely understand. So with the regulator in the care system, the CQC for England anyway, they call it environmental sustainability. Then you've got ESG. Then you've got net zero. Then you've got sustainability for this. So people are like, are we even talking, comparing
it all the same language?
What are we all talking about?
That's why I said I literally just stopped looking at everything else and just thought, well, I'll do what I think's best. Yeah. And we got some chickens because I thought it'd be great to give Stan some eggs.
But again, I guess
why not? That seems sustainable.
Yeah, we're not going to get a couple come across the table, are we? Yet?
I can go and get some in.
I guess before we kind of just move on, then I think it's probably right to say everyone's going to have to do it, but the timing is all about when it's right for you in your own business cycles. And if you can adopt some early stuff early that is not going to impinge, then it's all going to help with that transition to be mandated to do it.
And something you touched on, which I would definitely recommend that Hannah recommended to me was the carbon literacy training. I thought that was brilliant, and it was funded by, because we're in Staffordshire, it's funded by SPEN, but I think it's funded all the way around.
Yeah, I think everyone.
And I expected to go there and then go, oh, it's all your fault to look at, but it wasn't. It was really honest and open, and
we've all done it now at CAS. Well, I say we've all done it apart from me. And I'm
the royal we.
Yeah. And I'm enrolled at the end of this month, so hopefully we'll again. And it's just another credential that you can sing about, you can shout about, and just adds a little bit.
So you'll become. I think once so many staff have done it, you become. Is it a gold or platinum?
Bronze,
like
and you can apply to become a carbon literate company,
Yeah.
and then you can kind of go through the scales of that.
It makes it easier for us to go for something like B Corp, which again for us is on our own roadmap, and businesses. I think once you embrace this change that is coming, it'll help you naturally push through where you ultimately want to go. And B Corp is one that we've actually been asked for a big client.
They're changing how they do that now. So you could, as long as you've got 80 points, you could be B Corp, and there's different elements of it. Or they were finding like the big bad boy, like Coca-Cola or whatever, were getting the 80 points easy, but still doing some naughty bad things over here. So they're looking B Corp are almost changing how they're doing that, but they are the one that people.
Yeah, it's the one certainly in the accounting industry that there are lots of accountants now have recognised it's where they need to be. We're on that journey. Is it an easy journey? No, it isn't, because it's a complete change almost of the way that you work. We're now conscious of where we buy. We don't use some of the big online shopping places because it doesn't tick the boxes of where we're trying to go. So yeah, I think sustainability and where we are and where we're going will ultimately.
People asked you about carbon calculations for you to do the accounting of their carbon.
Yes, and we're now offering that. And there are various platforms, and again, we'll touch on the ones that we kind of recommended. But yeah, we've now started to ask, and are now offering it as a little bit of an add-on service for those that want to go on that journey. There are some great tools out there that will just tap into your zero, and for those that use other platforms, there are various ones. We're very much entrenched in zero, so they tap in and they'll just look at all of your supply chain, all of your bills, and tell you basically where you where they carbon.
You spoke to me about that then. I didn't know that was
so that's that. But these are all things that it's constantly evolving. 12 months ago there was one. We now are aware of 4, and they're just springing up all over the place.
Just checking the credentials though. So some of the bigger care players that are over millions have had to sign up to this scheme called ESOS, ESOS, and they're having to do carbon reporting and all their carbon footprint. But they can't just ask Google or ask AI. They have to have a qualified auditor to do it. So it depends on the level of which you are as well. So we are finding, so I have to report to the NHS every month. When they give us stuff, I have to say what carbon footprint that saved, and then the S of the ESG, so the social stuff, where that money's gone, which is cool. So I can say, we sold the bed for 350 quid that you gave us. That saved X amount of carbon, and that 350 quid went to X care worker and helped them do this. What do you do? They love it. So what we're now doing a kind of mini program with Birmingham City University, and their accounting students are helping me calculate the carbon footprint of absolutely every single piece of care equipment that we deal with. So therefore on our website, when care providers buy from us, they can buy on an account and they can run off a report that then hopefully will say, hello, I'm looking at David because he doesn't actually know that I'm wanting to do this yet, and here's our web done. So here we go, this is what we wanted to do. But then that's going to make people buy from us. And if you can offer that as a service as an accountant, if there's some way that you're, that's going to give you that little extra.
That's it. I think it's all about those. I mean, we talk about it in accounting world all the time, and definitely what we do. It's the added value. The cost doesn't go up for the client, but the value that you can bring to the table far outweighs the cost that they pay.
And I think it's looking for smarter ways to do things. So, as an example, I'm a trustee on a charity, but would be a friend. And Bromford have been told, the big Bromford housing company, they've been told, right, you've got to, wherever you're building houses now, you've got to offset and do a load of social stuff. Before it was costing them, I think, a lot of money to do that themselves. But now what they're doing is looking at charities like this and going, well, here's a plot of land. We're going to give you that plot of land. You run a wellbeing garden, and so they're working a cleverer way of doing it.
Yeah.
Or not having to do it themselves, but giving it to charities who will then go and report back and are brilliant. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Give us a plot of land, and they're going to run that on there. I think that's a smarter way of doing it without costing them so much money, but they're still adhering to that social responsibility.
Fabulous.
That makes sense.
It does, absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Giving You More Than Numbers. Subscribe for more business insights from Team Cass.